So good afternoon everyone. My name is Maurya Hanspal. And in this session we're going to continue our understanding and discussion on mutual funds. So if we talk about how to so first topic for today's discussion we're going to discuss about the ELSS and the tax saving instruments. So ELSS are the equity linked saving schemes as talked about in some of the things in the previous sessions as well. So what basically happens in an ELSS, there is a lock-in period of 3 years. And the one best advantage that you get for investing into the ELSS is it gives you the tax deduction up to 1.5 lakh rupees on your investment under Section 80CC. It means you can save your investments for up to like 1.5 lakhs under Section 80CC. Okay, and it is contribute and the deduction is available only till like 1.5 lakh. That is 1,50,000. So this limit increases to like, for example, if you have invested like 2 lakh rupees, then you will just get the tax deduction of up till 1.5 lakhs only, and 50,000 would be your own. Okay, so that is like some of the benefits which this scheme is providing you, and the lock-in period is 3 years. Okay, and the maximum proportion for 75 to 80% of the equity of the investment into this ELSS fund is done into the equity instruments, and that is one thing you need to know. Okay. So an equity-linked saving scheme is a tax saving scheme which is available along with several other products under Section 80C of the IT Act. An investor can choose any of the available products to avail of a tax deduction of 1.5 lakh currently available under this section, as I told you. And this tax deduction of 1.5 lakhs is 1.5 lakh की investment करनी है, ठीक है, वो returns पे या gains पे tax deduction नहीं है. Now, the tenure is fixed for PPF, NSC, and bank deposits. Again, your national savings certificates and public provident fund is also included into the ELSS only. Not ELSS, but in the Section 80C, all these instruments. In the case of ELSS, it could be a 10-year closed end or an open-year ended fund. However, 3 years is a minimum lock-in period. That is, ELSS में आपको 3 साल के तक के लिए अपना पैसा बंद करके रखना ही रखना है, and there is no way you people can take out your money before 3 years. Now Ulips, which are the unique linked investment plans. People think that ELSS and Ulips are one and the same thing, and they get confused in the kind of differences between the two. See, the one thing is common, that is both of them are getting a tax deduction benefit of 1.5 lakhs under Section 80C. But ELSS is a purely investment. Okay, 75 to 80% is going into equity, whereas ULIP is a combination of both your investments and insurance. Also, the second difference is the lock-in period for the ELSS is 3 years and the lock-in period for ULIP is 5 years. Now, investors generally prefer traditional debt instruments for tax saving. While these may provide safety and stability, they fall short of generating higher inflation-adjusted returns over the long term. So see, like these instruments are basically for tax savings and other safer ones. But what basically happens when an instrument is safe or it has been taken for the purposes of tax, it can further reduce your returns, because ultimately inflation is something which we call it as mehengai, or the rise in the prices of the commodities, or the reduction in the purchasing power of your money. So basically these things that happen, and on the basis of that, what basically is happening, your purchasing power is getting reduced. So inflation ultimately तुम्हारा पैसा खाना, right? And instruments that earn a fixed rate of interest when average inflation is high will yield low real rate of return. Okay. See, अगर instrument को fixed rate of return दे रहा है, whereas the inflation rate is high, because inflation we can see nowadays is continuously rising by 6% or like 6.5%, right? So that can provide a lower return, because ultimately the fixed income instrument, like for example FD, if FD is giving you a rate of interest of 5% or 5.75%, and the inflation rate, the rate is going around at 6%, so 0.25 is eaten by inflation, and you are earning nothing. Instead, it is a minus 0.25 ka return, like you lost minus 2.5. Now, along with tax deduction, ELSS also provides a long-term capital appreciation and higher inflation-adjusted return. So in case of the ELSS, the people can get a good return in the long term, because it's an again equity-oriented investment, and equity-oriented investments give you a return only for the long-term period. And ultimately, the returns can be more than 10%, good enough to beat inflation. But the expense ratio has to be taken into consideration as well. Now, your ELSS offers an opportunity to gain from the market-linked returns from equity. Investments in ELSS are, however, subject to market risk and must be made taking into consideration age and risk-taking ability. Because if you have a higher risk appetite in the market, you are more risk tolerant, you can invest more into equity. Now, a young investor may have the capacity to bear some volatility in order to gain from the significant capital appreciation that ELSS funds seek to reserve. Because ultimately, the corpus is being invested into equity funds and they can give you some more returns. Then you have the principles of fund selection, right? And then you have to see that the mutual funds offer a range of products to investors. These products are designed to meet various investment objectives of investors. Some investors are looking at their retirement needs, others are trying to fund a short-term horizon. So all these needs have to be taken into consideration because ultimately people would have invested into these funds for different kinds of returns. Okay, like some might have a marriage goal, some might have a holiday goal, some might be planning for retirement needs. So all these things have to be taken into consideration, and different people might have different set of goals. But the mutual fund products are primarily created to cater to a large range of customer needs. In order to use the mutual fund products to meet the financial planning and wealth management needs of investors, advisors have to understand what the products they offer, how to recommend them, and to whom. So these things have to be taken into consideration कि कौन product तुम्हें recommend कर रहा है, because a large number of people recommend the products to you in the market. Okay, and you have to see that which product is the best one and is it good for you or not. So these things you have to take into consideration while looking for a good product in the market. Now, the mutual fund products are primarily created to cater to a large range of customer needs. In order to use mutual fund products to meet the financial planning and wealth management need of investors, advisors have to understand what the products offer, how to recommend them, and to whom. Okay, now the asset classes and funds. The mutual fund invests across multiple asset classes. The risk return and the holding period requirement for each of these classes vary. Equity as an asset class enables long-term growth in value but can be volatile in the short term. Short-term debt instruments provide a steady level of return with lower risk and are suitable for short-term horizons. Like when we were talking about the debt instruments. So debt instruments में basically क्या होता है, if you are like investing into a short term, because in the short term the interest rates are not so volatile, but in the long term the interest rates are volatile. Okay, so that is the point which it is like stressing upon. Now, a combination of equity and debt enables further diversification and provides a composite portfolio to the investor. Like for example, if you are like investing into both equity and debt, you can diversify in a better way, and that is one thing. Now you have to see the investment objective. That what is the investment objective? In order to decide the suitability of the fund to investors, information about how the money will be invested by the fund is important. This is defined by the investment objective of a fund. It describes what the fund seeks to achieve. Okay, so all these things have to be taken into consideration as well. Now the portfolio features of the fund you have to see. Okay, that is the portfolio performing in a well-defined manner. अच्छा portfolio चल रहा है नहीं चल रहा. You also have to see the returns of the mutual fund ultimately as compared to benchmark if you are like investing into index funds, or in case of active funds if they are really beating the benchmarks. So because a large amount of active funds they really beat the benchmark, and even if they do, it's by a very small amount. Okay, so with this we come